Hi, it's Jane with Scraptastic Yarns. I've only done a little bit on the cushion, but I told you the other day about the Etsy things that were going on, and I just feel like I need to clarify that a little bit better. I had watched Ann Eckhart's video about it this morning, and while she has some valid points, I think she missed part of the whole issue to begin with. She doesn't do daily deposits. I am one that I do daily deposits because it just was easier at one point to do that, and I just never changed it back to weekly. But she is under the understanding that out of the FDIC, those Etsy sellers of us, will be receiving our monies. But that's not quite the way it works. You see, Etsy B is the one that had the account with the Silicon Valley Bank. Not me, Etsy B. And that's who pays me my sums each time. So I'm going to read you the letter that I got from Etsy originally. And I got this Friday about maybe 7:30 in the morning or 7:30 in the evening, which my deposit should have already been deposited. This is from Etsy. Hi there, we wanted to let you know that there is a delay with your deposit that was scheduled for today. This delay was caused by the recent developments regarding Silicon Valley Bank, who Etsy uses to facilitate disbursements to some sellers. We are working with our other payment partners to issue your deposit as soon as possible. No date, no other information. We apologize for any inconvenience or disruption this may have caused. We know that you count on us to help run your business, and we understand how important it is for you to receive your funds when you need them. Please know that our teams are working hard to resolve this issue and send you your funds as quickly as possible. No further action is needed from you at this time. Please feel free to reach out to our help center 24/7 with any questions you might have. I have no response. So, there we go. But I'm going to read you this article as of Saturday morning from NBC. Etsy warns sellers of delay in processing payments due to Silicon Valley collapse. Etsy is warning sellers that the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank on Friday is causing delays in processing payments, according to an email from a company shared with NBC News. And I'm sure those of you that purchased items from me Thursday and Friday, that it's clearly out of your accounts by now. The online do-it-yourself goods mega shop said it used SVB to facilitate disbursement to some sellers, and that it was working with other payment partners to issue deposits. We wanted to let you know there was a delay with your deposit that was scheduled for today, the email from Etsy said. We know that you count on us, and I've done all that. But in a written statement Saturday, Etsy spokesperson said the issue was related to the unexpected collapse of Silicon Valley Bank. The company said in the statement it had been working on a solution, and we expect to pay sellers via our other payment partners within the next several business days. Etsy claims 7.5 million sellers. Regulators placed SVB into receivership around noon Friday to end a bank run on a tech lender that had begun Wednesday after it said it was seeking to raise more than $2 billion. Etsy seller Owen McKinney said the deposits delay would have a catastrophic effect on his business. McKinney, who runs Kentucky Country Home laser engraving business, said in an email that he relies on the deposits to pay for items like shipping costs and materials. Yes, that's what most of us rely on it for. He said he had already reached out to one of his suppliers to delay an order for materials that he needed for next week. At this time, Etsy has not provided a time frame for the funds to be deposited. While I do have a website, Etsy remains a huge part of my business. Another Etsy seller, Rachel Briggs, has been on Etsy since 2010, selling her designs, enamel pins, keychains, and handmade art dolls. Briggs said quit her office job in 2020 and has been a freelance artist since. She said her business on Etsy, in addition to her work as an illustrator, is a huge part of her household's income. She said she recently paid for an expensive tax appointment with a professional to handle the documentation now that her income is less than traditional. She expected the Etsy deposit would cover the cost. Getting that email that my most anticipated deposit is being delayed was not really a good thing to wake up to. Part of her Etsy sales occurred before the deposit was held up, she added, allowing her to pay for the tax services. Nina Bissett, another Etsy seller, has relied on the platform as her primary source of income since being laid off. Her business is a curated selection of vintage home goods, handmade, disco balls, and accessories. When she got the email about the delay in payment, she felt worried for herself and the thousands of others sellers. As she should be. It's not a good thing. My customers are still expecting the orders, and I won't be able to use the funds I was expecting to use to pay for shipping and materials. It will effectively limit how much extra inventory I can hold and sell. She's hopeful that this will be resolved soon. The drama with SVB started earlier this week when the bank disclosed that it sold about $21 billion of securities and proposed to offer over $1 billion in shares, all to fundraise for general corporate purposes. That move raised eyebrows among investors who wondered why SVB would need to raise so much money abruptly. It also worried depositors, many of whom suddenly wondered whether their money was safe and began pulling funds out. On Friday, the California Department of Financial Protection and Innovation said it was taking over and closing SVB to protect deposits, naming the FDIC as its receiver. The FDIC has formed a separate entity where all insured SVB deposits up to $250,000 per depositor will be available by Monday morning. Shutdown came after a tumultuous morning for SVB, during which trading of its shares was halted after they fell by double digits before the markets opened. The downslide came on the heels of more than a 60% decline Thursday. The closure marks the biggest bank failure since the 2008 financial crisis and the second largest in the U.S. history after Washington Mutual collapsed during the industry-wide meltdown, according to the FDIC. There are a lot of people that are in trouble. There are some people expecting this money to pay for their mortgages. You know. But you got to remember this. If SVB, let's say they have $5 million in funds invest in that bank to pay their Etsy sellers. Let's just use a round off number. They're only guaranteed $250,000 of that. So they can lose the rest of that money. So yeah. And then you have some other things that are highly interesting. There is an SCO that lobbied Congress in 2015 for SVB and to lessen the scrutiny on businesses such as his. Greg Becker insisted at the time that enhanced prudential standards should be lifted given the low risk profile of our activities. It was also revealed that Becker had sold $3.57 million of stock in a pre-planned automated sell-off 2 weeks before the bank collapsed. And the CFO ditched $575,000 on the same day. So, the only good news is that apparently this weekend, and yes, I was watching Fox News. I happened to turn it on. That's the channel came up. Talked about that other banks are going to help cover those funds, so that taxpayer tax money won't be used to pay for that. But either way, it's a losing proposition for many of us. So, if you are not on that end of the Etsy, then you have nothing to worry about. If you know, from what I understand, possibly those that are doing weekly deposits don't have issues. Do I know that for a fact? No, I don't know that for a fact. But in Ann's video, she felt like every one of us would receive our monies. But the problem here is, I think Ann was thinking that I have money in SVB with my deposit. No, I do not. It is Etsy that has the money that you guys paid to them for my products. So, there we are. Anyway, like I said, I don't have any more of the crocheting done. I haven't done a whole lot of knitting, basically because I've been really doing a deep clean in the house, that deep Swedish cleaning, and I've been getting rid of things, taking them to the Salivating Army, Goodwill, you know, those kind of things, getting them to people who want them, those kind of deals. So that's it. That's all there is for that portion. So now I'm going to go on to the WIT in Tarnation. Not much of a yarn podcast today, is it? Sorry, folks. Code compliance official finds alligator in North Carolina attic. Could you imagine that? A county code compliance official in North Carolina made a surprising discovery in the attic of a home under construction: an 8-foot alligator. The new Hanover County government said Dean Brown, a county code compliance official, was inspecting a new home under construction in the Carolina Beach Road area when he encountered the large reptile in the attic. The workers having lunch sitting in the next room. I asked them to leave. He's told WWAY TV. They kind of laughed at me when I told them why, and I said, well, you might want to look because there's an alligator in the attic. Can you imagine that? County government shared a photo of Brown's discovery on Facebook. Brown said the attic gator was a first for him. I'll bet. You'll see nothing major. I've seen squirrels, of course, small rodents. Squirrels, probably the biggest ones I've seen in the attic. I've seen a gator that was in the yard kind of sunbathing back in the 90s. You know, I really didn't think much of it. I've run into several snakes. The alligator was relocated by local animal control officers. Aren't you glad it was? Vutomi, the 3-legged elephant, adapts, survives amid carrying herd. Vutomi, the elephant, displays her will to survive by keeping with her herd and living a normal life despite only being able to walk on 3 legs. Dylan Pons, a content creator for Zuka Private Game Reserve in South Africa, recently shared his incredible experience with latestsightings.com. During an afternoon drive from Sadara, Dylan and his team stumbled upon a herd of elephants at Nesamani Dam, where they witnessed something truly remarkable. As Pons and his team observed the herd, they noticed that Vutomi was present and been in the water, finding comfort and release. We could see dark watermarks on her body from where she had been in the water. It was incredible to see how she adapted to her situation and continued to move with her herd. Vutomi is an incredible elephant with a remarkable story. She has a noticeable limp and has only 3 legs. The loss of limb could be due to a snare, which is the reality of life for these animals or it could have been from a predator attack in her younger years. Whatever it may be, one thing is for sure, Vutomi is a survivor, and truly remarkable display of her resilience of these wild animals despite their harsh conditions. Despite her injury, Vutomi is surrounded by other elephants who came to greet her, displaying a beautiful sense of community and care. It was heartwarming to see how her herd embraced her and supported her. They truly showed an amazing sense of empathy and compassion. The sighting ended with Vutomi disappearing into the bushes following her herd. Pons expressed how rare this sighting was for him personally, and how he worries that there could be more injured animals in the wild due to the snares. If you see Vutomi or other injured animals close to the road, I recommend giving them space to avoid adding any stress to their already difficult situation. We are in their environment after all. Respect is of utmost importance when dealing with these gentle giants. And isn't it? And there's video. And I hope you go check the video out because it's very heartwarming. Bear goes salmon fishing in Alaska. Is that anything unusual? Maybe not. Brown bears in Alaska have developed a unique hunting technique when it comes to salmon. Standing on the edge of a waterfall, catching fish as they attempt to swim upstream. Nick Dale, a wildlife photographer, had the opportunity of a lifetime at Brooks Falls, Alaska. He captured the moment and shared it with latestsightings.com. He spent a week there during the annual salmon run, but only managed to capture 2 shots that met his expectations. The experience was not without challenges because Alaska summer is cold and wet. The challenging conditions did not make capturing the perfect shot any easier. I managed to take 2 shots like the one I wanted. The brown bear was standing in the shallow water waiting for the perfect moment to catch a salmon in midair. The scene was set, and all I required was one press of the shutter. Brown bears target these as they are moving upstream on their journey to reproduce. The Alaskan rivers pose huge obstacles for these fish. Having to go airborne to be able to move upriver means they are fully exposed to the bears. Although the experience was incredible, it was incredibly rare. The trip was challenging to arrange, and I had to take a float plane to the lodge every morning. But if you're lucky enough to make the trip, my advice is to enter the lottery and keep your fingers crossed. Photographing brown bears catching salmon at Brooks Falls is one of the greatest experiences you'll ever have as a wildlife photographer. Salmon are fish that are known to have a very high fat content. This means bears are able to maximize their calorie intake from an outwardly small meal. I wanted to capture the iconic shot of a bear with its mouth open, catching a salmon in midair. But getting the shot was not easy. As I pressed the shutter, I couldn't help but feel a sense of awe at the majesty of nature. Yeah. Nature is amazing, and it shows the majesty of God, our Creator. Tiger cub gets rescued dog playmate at Colorado sanctuary. A tiger cub seized in New Mexico in January is settling in at a Colorado sanctuary and has a new best friend, a rescue dog. Now, I find that interesting anyway, because Colorado and New Mexico have this big chili fight that goes on for years and years and years about whose chili is the best, as in chili peppers. So, Colorado took in a New Mexico tiger cub. The Wild Animal Sanctuary in Keensburg said Duke, a tiger cub seized by Albuquerque police in January, was recently transferred to the sanctuary from the Albuquerque Biopark. Pat Craig, the sanctuary's founder and director, said Duke had formed a bond with Valley, one of the sanctuary's 10 rescue dogs that serve as companions for rescued cubs. Greg said Duke gets 3 play sessions a day with Valley and the other dogs. He has stuffed animals he likes to play with as well, Greg told KOAT TV. And so when he gets to run around the clinic, that's his big exercise. He has an outdoor area that he goes to as well, and he's just about big enough now to start going up into his own little habitat. Greg said Duke will be introduced to adult tigers once he is 9 months old to a year old. He said keepers hope the cub will then be able to bond with a foster mother. And there's video. You know, I guess humans aren't the only one that want to take cruises. Here's another animal that took a cruise. Owl stows away for a 2-week trip on a Royal Caribbean cruise ship. Wildlife officials in Florida said an owl was successfully captured after stowing away aboard a cruise ship and joining passengers for their 2-week holiday to Mexico. The Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission said wildlife biologist Ricardo Zambrano responded to Royal Caribbean International Symphony of the Seas cruise ship in Miami after the ship's crew reported a burrowing owl had been spotted on numerous occasions during the vessel's 2-week trip to Mexico and back. Ricardo only had a 1-hour window of time between the passengers disembarking and new passengers coming aboard for their week-long vacation to Mexico. Initial attempts to capture the owl caused the bird to flee to new perches, but the crew was eventually able to distract the avian for long enough to allow Zambrano to capture it in a net. After the amazing rescue, the cute little stowaway was safely assisted with the disembarkation process. He had nothing to claim, in Customs Post said. The owl appeared to be in good health, but was taken to the South Florida Wildlife Center for examination and observation. And there you have it. That is it for today's podcast. I'm sorry it was really short on actual knitting, crochet, sewing items, but there's always next week. I'll get back into the groove now that I've gotten things a little bit more settled. At least I feel settled enough to where I can sit down and relax and crochet and knit some. Alright, that's it for today. Everybody, remember to be kind to one another, love one another, and get out there and see this amazing world that God created for us. I'll see you again next week. Bye.